Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. This week I'm going to introduce you to Scraptastic, a super simple, super easy method for creating appliques quickly. This produces stunning results and, best of all, it uses scraps of fabric. The method is so simple and so quick that you'll wonder why you've not been doing it this way before. Now obviously, because of the way that this works, it's more scrappy than regular applique, in which you cut specific shapes of fabric to form an image. Rather than trying to explain, let's just crack on with the video and show you. Grab your fabric scraps and apply fusible webbing to the back of them. I'm using some offcuts from the unicorn cushion design that I did a video on a few weeks ago, and some that's left over from the Highland cow cushion. Both of these will work for the little pig that we're going to be making today. So the paper side of the fusible webbing should be facing the ironing board at this point. We want to stick the webbing side to the back of all of the fabrics. I've been making these for a little while and I always cut the fabric pieces and then tear off the paper. It never occurred to me to remove the paper and then cut the pieces down into random shapes. Likely because I was filming this and I realised it was taking a while. So learn from my mistake, remove the paper and then cut the pieces down to suit. The smaller the pieces, the scrappier the finished project will be, but remember, for each edge that's a line of stitching that you're going to have to do. We'll get to that later. Now take a piece of greaseproof paper, standard kitchen greaseproof paper, and trace the pattern onto the non-shiny side. Pencil is fine, pen is more obvious. It really doesn't matter what you use as long as you can see it through the paper. For those in other countries, you may refer to the paper as parchment paper. You don't need to tape the template pieces together first if you're confident of placing each of them correctly. But if you do want to, go ahead and attach them where the pattern indicates. I should say that you don't have to trace the patterns, you can cut them out, well, stick them together, cut them out and then draw around them if that's easier for you. Now we can get randomly creative, and I do strongly suggest that you do this on an ironing board as you'll need it once they're all in place. So take the fabric scraps that you created and peel off the backing paper unless you've been smart enough to do that already. Place them randomly to cover the drawn template. The fusible webbing should be facing the paper and the fabric should be facing up towards you. Continue adding them randomly until the entire image is covered. We want the pieces to overlap one another so that there aren't any gaps. Once you've covered the image, you can go ahead and apply heat from a warm iron. Don't be tempted to roll the iron over. Use a lift and press down motion, just so that you don't end up knocking any of the edges of the fabric over. You don't want the glue gonking up the bottom of the iron. So here's a gap that I didn't see before. I'll just add another random piece of fabric to cover that up, and then continue pressing. So once everything's secure, you can slide the iron over it, just with a little bit of caution. I will show you in another video how you can cover the entire thing and get 2 panels out of the one design. So keep an eye out for that coming up. Now you can turn over the paper covered fabric and cut around the image. Now I'm using 2 pairs of scissors, a large pair for the easy cuts and a tiny pair for the areas where it's just easier to use a small set. I plan to use a bunch of different animals to create a larger quilt, but these were actually designed to work in a 20-inch cushion. One tip for this, if you're struggling to see where to cut, draw around the line, around the template again, on the paper side in a thicker marker, just to make it more obvious where you're meant to be cutting. So I'm going to apply the Scraptastic Applique to a textured blender fabric. So peel off the paper and then place it fusible side down on the backing fabric and iron it in place. Now time for some sewing. If you have the means, and by that I mean a machine where you can drop the feed dogs and you own an open toe quilting foot, free motion is by far the easiest option here. Simply sew around the edges of all the fabric pieces. If you don't have that foot, straight line stitching will work fine, but it'll take a little longer to complete. As far as the needle size goes, anywhere between 9 and 11 I find at least gives the best result for me. For people in other countries, this would be between 65 and 75. So I'm actually doing both stitch methods, and I'll explain why I prefer one over the other in a second. See the difference? Unless you're used to free motion quilting, the results can be a little deflating. Of course, practice makes perfect, and if you're willing to run with it, good on you. Me, I prefer the straight line stitching. It takes longer, but the end result looks so much neater, in my opinion. I'm sure some will prefer the other method, but wouldn't the world be boring if we were all the same? Once everything is stitched down, you can stitch around the entirety of the image using a decorative stitch or a satin stitch, which will envelop all the edges neatly. I didn't bother with the pig one. I think he looks super cute as he is, and to be fair, I don't mind a little bit of fraying eventually appearing around the edges. So that's the panel done, and I love it. I previously completed this squirrel too. There are lots of other designs coming up, so keep your eyes peeled for those. If you do want to make this into a cushion, check out the Highland cow video, which I'll link in the description, as that walks you through creating the cushion bag for a 20-inch cushion. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, happy sewing.